Touchdown Cowboys!
Dallas Cowboys football 2024 in crystal clear HD stereo. Today's pregame show is brought to you by
Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
We made it, folks. We made it. A football Sunday, a Cowboy game day here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. Great to have you in. I'm Eric Chiofalo. We got Bryan Broaddus, the legend, out on the tennis courts in Oxnard, California, holding it down, boots on the ground, all training camp long, ready to break down the everything he's seen really over the course of the last couple of weeks leading up to tonight's preseason opener in Los Angeles versus the Rams. They just saw this team in practice. And Broaddus has all the takeaways. So this is fantastic, man. This is going to be an awesome show, 3 hours to kick off, and we'll take you all the way up until then. Broaddus, how we doing? You're wearing the game day pearl snaps, looking good, feeling good, baby. It's a football Sunday.
How about that, man? Yeah, it's. I'm really looking forward to today because we've had, as you mentioned, we've had these practices, and and I applaud Mike McCarthy for the way he has practiced his team. I really do like the fact that they worked against the Rams on Thursday. Gave us a little idea of some of the starters and how they maybe would, how they maybe would show a little bit. But it's going to be about young guys playing today, and it's going to be about them and to try and, as I mentioned in the crosstalk, trying to get their best foot forward. We've had these practices. Coaches have an idea. Okay, this kid can do this. He can do that. How can he play in game conditions? And that's what we're going to get this afternoon at SoFi Stadium.
Heck yes, we are. And it got competitive. I'll tell you, this feels, when we were there for the first 10 days of camp, it felt like a pretty dang competitive camp.
It has been, yeah. It has been.
The practice with the Rams the other day felt just the same.
Yeah, and Mike McCarthy even talked about this in some of his podium time, was that as he was always like, hey, well, I can work against my team and it'll be fine. Everybody likes our defense. I like our offense. You get great work against each other. And, I'm kind of like, well, if you can work against some other team, you might get a little bit better idea. To be honest with you, the Cowboys ran the ball against the Rams better than they've run it against their own defense. So, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting big holes with Ezekiel Elliott running through there or Rico Dowdle running through there. I was kind of thinking like, okay, let's see how this goes. But when you have starting offensive linemen, your number ones out there creating opportunity, against your own defense, so that to me is like a couple of ways you can look at it. Hey, that's a good sign that you're playing some run defense against your own offense. But the fact that the Dallas Cowboys showed the ability to create some space against an opponent, I think is something that hopefully will carry over as we work through these preseason games.
See, to me, that's huge. Like, that's one of the biggest takeaways of the entire practice. That's one of the
surprising. Yeah.
I mean, because coming into the season right now, Broaddus, I mean, that's one of the – is that not the biggest question you have about this football team? Is it, can they run the football?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questions here with this football team is can they run the football, as you mentioned, and what are they going to do at defensive tackle? Right. That's kind of where I'm at right now as training camp is past halfway and watching these practices. Will Dallas be able offensively to take pressure off Dak Prescott with the running back room they currently have, with the offensive line configured the way it is? So if this turns into just all Dak Prescott, that might not be a bad thing, but anything to do to help him along the way. We've talked about, other teams, the teams that play really, really well on offense. They do have an element of a running game. They're just not completely one-dimensional. And if Dallas with and I think their best back is Rico Dowdle. I just do. When you watch him, but the only question is about him and his health. We'll say that over and over and over until Rico Dowdle plays the whole season where he's not missing games. And so, yeah, but to your point, to your question, yes, that was a major point that we were all looking at. How would they replace the left tackle? What's going to happen at center? And how are they going to run the football? Those are really, really big offensive questions.
877-881-1053 is the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys here on The Fan. Let's tee it up to the Tolos. What is your biggest question? If it's not running the ball, stopping the run, what other big questions do you have? Because, man, if they're able to run the football this year, I think that'll go a long way in making this offense be something that can be an extreme challenge for defenses with what we've seen from some of these playmakers without CeeDee Lamb there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you got Cook stepping in, and that second half of the season was really nice. Hopefully he picks up where he left off. He's having a nice camp right now. We know about Jake Ferguson on the ascent. I think at the end of the season we could be talking about him, bona fide top 5 tight end in the sport. And then Jalen Tolbert is another guy who's really stepped up. So if you can run the football, and we're going to talk about all those guys, Broaddus, but I'm curious when it comes to the way they were able to do it. We know Tyler Smith is an animal. He's an all-pro. He's just going to be mowing folks down. Are they just running right behind Tyler Smith, or were you impressed with a Brock Hoffman? Were you impressed with Terrence Steele?
Yeah, it was. I'll tell you what, Chief. It was coming at you from that left side, and it happened to be Chuma Edoga out there playing left tackle. Now, listen, hey, I don't watch Ram practice every day. I can't tell you about their defensive line. I can't tell you if they have the same questions that Dallas has about how to play run defense. I think with Aaron Donald in there, it's a little bit of a different story. Without him being there, it's really a different story. But, the way that Dallas was able to do it, it was a pretty basic way of doing it. There wasn't any deception. There wasn't any let's run big motion, let's do this, let's do that. They used Hunter Lipke, they used Edoga, they used Smith. I'll say this about Tyler Smith. When we walk out of this camp on the 22nd of August, we're talking about Tyler Smith as probably, as far as having the type of camp he's had, probably one of the top 4 players when it comes to when you say, okay, give me, DallasCowboys.com will do a top 10 camp performers. I guarantee you they will have Tyler Smith near the top of that list, the way that he's performed. And, his ability to get movement, his ability to play with power. Hoffman, it was really nice to see. I don't think Hoffman is athletic as what Broaddus is, or was, put it that way. There were a couple of times where Hoffman was second level. There were a couple of times where Beebe was second level. Even to the point when I say second level, they were on up to the linebackers, and they were going past the linebackers in a way of like, holy, what? Wait a minute. They're getting out, and then they're getting that clean, and they're overrunning, and then having to adjust back. That's how you run the football. If you get hat on hat, secure down linemen, and now get guys up on the second level, you are going to give your backs opportunities to cut off those blocks, and that's what they were able to do in that practice against the Rams on Thursday. Let's see with the group that's going to be. It's not going to be a lot of the starters on that offensive line. There's a chance you're going to see Guyton in this game. I talked to somebody today about it. They're going to try and work him in, but he's going to be on a little bit of a pitch count there.
Okay.
So he's still dealing with the chest cold, which is affecting him. So they're gonna try, and if he plays, you're going to see him for a certain number of plays, and then he's going to come out. But him, Guyton, Bass, and then Beebe, yeah, those kinds of guys, Shipley, those guys are going to get the lion's share of the work in this game coming up this afternoon.
Well, Guyton was fantastic in the days that we were there at camp. You can speak to what he's done. I know he's been a little sick and under the weather, missing some time.
Not much. Yeah, not much.
He was awesome when we were out there. What have you seen from Cooper Beebe since we left here, Broaddus, the rookie out of K-State?
Yeah, the Cooper Beebe is he's going to get a lot of work at center today, and then when Shipley plays the center, he's going to shift over to guard. So the way he's coming off the football, the way he's getting into blocks, the one-on-one pass rush. I was doing work with DallasCowboys.com during the scrimmage, and it was myself and Kyle Yeomans talking about the one-on-one pass rush. The one guy that actually played with technique and knee bend and power was Cooper Beebe. Everybody else seemed to forget that. Wait a minute, don't lunge, don't do this, don't do that. There was some chaotic moments for that one-on-one group. I guess there were some chaotic moments for the Rams offensive line as well on the other side of the field with what Mozzie Smith and those guys were able to do. But on my field, Cooper Beebe was solid, and actually Josh Ball was solid with some of his technique. And he's going to play some guard in this game this afternoon, as I mentioned. But Cooper Beebe he's starting to get it back and understand, like, snap, step, don't let him attack offhand, get hand up quick, get body position, work with the guards. It really, really helps when he can work with some guys. Every once in a while, he'll get a rep in there with Tyler Smith and then Zach Martin and all that. You're working with two guards next to you like that. That can help you if you're not very confident in what you're doing. It's like, okay, I've got these guys next to me that are Pro Bowl players. Okay, if I make a mistake, they'll cover for me. But he's done a much better job as the camp has worn on.
Well, that's fantastic news. It's the official pregame show of America's Team, brought to you by Reliant and NRG Company. And 877-881-1053. We got some questions here, Broaddus. Our guy Jonathan Cox on the 903.
Yeah.
How is Brandon Cooks going to step up without CD in the lineup? How is he performed in camp to this point?
I'll tell you what, he's a guy that can run all day. He never complains. You never see him. He's always coaching, working with. He was working with Brooks during the young guy practice on Friday of tracking the football over his head. So what he was doing is he's just kind of tossing the ball, and he was teaching Brooks how to track the ball. So, the scrimmage that he had against the Rams, two of the best passes, Dak has done a really good job in this camp of climbing the pocket. And when I mean climbing it, striding forward, getting to the middle of it. They got the thing set up in front of him, and he ripped two shots inside, some deep cut routes that Cooks was able to catch on the move. So, getting the ball to Brandon Cooks down the field is the way to go. Brandon Cooks, there were times where he was trying to do the Michael Gallup job last year where it's slant, and we saw what happened in the Packer game. They run the slant with him, and it gets intercepted. He's just not the biggest guy. What you need to do is put him on the move, let him get down the field, let him run under the ball, let him cross, throw him the screens real quick, and let him make space. And they're starting to do that a little bit more with him. Hopefully that'll carry over into the regular season.
I love it. More questions about the receivers, the young guys outside of Cook. David from Fort Worth, my 817 bro, David, asking about the young wide receivers. Tolbert, I mean, it sounds like you're captaining the Tolbert bandwagon right now, bro.
Yeah,
you're feeling good about him.
Yeah, Tolbert was one of those guys I questioned how much mental toughness he really, really had. Mm-hmm. And he is a guy that practices really well. You can see how competitive he is. His uniform is dirty a lot of the times after the practice because he'll go for the ball anywhere where it's near the ground. You see him rolling around, getting it there, making plays. I think he's separated himself from Brooks right now. The guy that's kind of covering some ground right now is Flournoy, and he was out with the knee problem over there by us. He was with Britt Brown. We were watching him on the courts. Well, now he's starting to practice, and he's had some pretty good practice. Had a nice catch from Trey Lance on the sidelines in the scrimmage on Thursday. So he's been super competitive coming back. Jalen Cropper is making these guys have to think about how many receivers they're going to keep and who's going to play special teams. And you've got guys like Cropper, you've got guys like Durden, you've got guys McMath. These young guys, it has been each day there has been somebody that makes a play. But Cropper's the one guy that has got the most opportunity with, say, the ones. He's the guy that, like, Bones Faso calls out, 4th and 3. And who's throwing the ball? Dak's throwing it to Cropper, and it's a first down. Or they're down in the red zone. He's throwing it to Cropper. So he's getting opportunities. But keep an eye today on how the special teams roll out, how they use these receivers, and who are the returners.
Right.
And then also, though, can some of these guys maintain the momentum? Can a guy come up with a 4-catch, 60-yard game today of these young guys? Build on that. A lot of them have had some pretty good practices today.
Yeah,
to this point.
I'm looking forward to seeing some of the new, with the new special team stuff. Like just watching that once again. Like, do you have any idea? Would we see Turpin take a return?
Yeah, I think that's I would guess that would be probably the first. If Turpin is going to play, my guess would be it would be on the special teams role is what it would be. And to try and maybe get but things that could change. They might decide, I know we want to do something different. Again, Deuce Vaughn was a guy that they were using, in the OTAs and the minicamp. Deuce Vaughn's been standing next to me at these practices. He is not, since we've padded things up and really got going, Deuce Vaughn has not been a guy out there. And I know he was a guy they were talking about on special teams and getting him a look, but that just hasn't been the case. David Durden is a guy that I mentioned, the receiver. He's had opportunities as a punt returner and also as a kick returner. So we'll see if they implement him a little bit today.
Awesome. Just getting started here on the Cowboys pregame show. We go inside the star with Bobby Belt coming up in just a few minutes, but let's go behind enemy lines. Let's get out to SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles and welcome in Rams play-by-play voice JB Long next right here on The Fan.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion.
dance. Small sticker, big savings. Go Cowboys.
Stafford from a strong right set. Play fakes, set up to throw. Full send, deep down the left side. No one near Cup. Caught at the 20. Untouched to the end zone. Don't look now, but the Rams cheat code is back. Cooper Kupp for the third week in a row. 62 yards from Matthew Stafford.
Under 3 hours to kick off preseason game number 1, Cowboys-Rams here on the official pregame show of America's team. Let's go behind enemy lines live in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. JB Long, Rams play-by-play voice. JB, thanks for the time, my man. How you doing?
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you, Eric and Bryan. I could promise you will not hear me call either one of those names here today, Matthew Stafford or Cooper Kupp, but excited to be back inside SoFi here in Inglewood nonetheless.
Hey, JB, I have a question. In the scrimmage the other day, how good is your run defense? On defense there?
Well, here's something I was not expecting to be able to say. Having lost, I think, one of, if not the greatest players in franchise history in Aaron Donald to retirement, that this defensive front might have picked up right where, if not ahead of where they left off at the end of last season.
Okay.
Even with Aaron, they were, I would say, a less than average defense last year. They were getting by with just enough, and they were outscoring people. And so I think the strength of this defense has a chance to be its run-stuffing ability, both in terms of who they bring back, like Bobby Brown, playing in a contract year as a young year 4 veteran, and also who they drafted. Both Jared Verse, who's like a bracket-setting edge rusher who can play run and pass equally, and Braden Fisk, his teammate from Florida State, who has arguably been the star of Rams training camp. So we won't know until Sunday, September the 8th against the Detroit Lions and their offense, but I think there's reason for optimism that with the biggest void to fill maybe in the entire National Football League, the Rams at least poured enough resources into Aaron Donald's absence to be equipped to hold their ground, if not take a step forward in that regard.
Yeah, those Florida State kids are good-looking players. There's no doubt about that. The reason I ask is because the biggest question that we have for these Dallas Cowboys is how they're going to run the football. And it appeared that they found some holes. I'm not saying that every single play was a gash run, but it appeared that maybe Dallas found a little traction. So we're trying to kind of get a gauge of, are we downgrading this running game, or is it the Rams? And you know, answer the question, sound like the Rams are going to be better playing run defense.
Well, can I play to your audience a touch? Because I know that our coaching staff came away thoroughly impressed by Tyler Smith.
There you go.
They were raving. They were raving about the work that he put in. So, look, I know where the running back portfolio stands, and there's some question marks there, but if you can get the removal that maybe you were talking about on Thursday against our group, or what they project to potentially do in your division this year, I think that'll be a big reason why you might be able to find success.
Voice of the Rams, JB Long with us here on The Fan. JB, as you just look sort of big picture coming into this season about the Rams here, what is where are the expectations at? What are your big questions on either side of the ball? Because from an outside perspective, it feels like this should be a pretty solid football team this year.
Yeah, I think year over year what I would say is from where we were 12 months ago, and not much was expected of the Rams, and I'm not sure they were even respected coming off the worst year of the Sean McVay era. I think this year maybe the expectations still aren't there because of what San Francisco does atop this division, but they're certainly respected. I don't think anyone will fade a Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford-led team again. And I know you guys probably saw where the Rams bottomed out when we visited Arlington last year. Matthew Stafford got hurt, and quite candidly, that could have very nearly been the end of Matthew Stafford's professional football career. But he did not have to have surgery on that thumb. He helped them turn it around, become a double-digit win team, and really one of the hottest teams that no one wanted to face come playoff time. And I mention that because I think whereas the first portion of Sean McVay's tenure here in Los Angeles, everything orbited around Aaron Donald. And how much can you capitalize while you have this unique interior defensive talent? Now I think that squarely shifts to the shoulders of Matthew Stafford, who I think played one of, if not his best seasons at quarterback in the back half of last year. How much longer can his arm talents and what he's got between the ears and his partnership now in year 4 with McVay, how much longer can you keep that prime for him and the championship window for the Rams available?
All right, JB, today we're going to try and keep every time we run a play, we're going to try and keep everybody upright. We don't want anybody down on the field, lay it out, or anything like that. What's the plan for the Rams today? And you mentioned you're probably not going to play a lot of your guys, but what's going to be the plan? Is it going to be 2s, 3s, and 4s kind of a thing, or is it going to be a mixture of really the entire roster?
Yeah, I would say so. I just tack on to your rules of engagement. I would say treat the white lines as like walls, boundaries. No one run out of bounds either. Everything,
exactly. There you go.
Everything tackled in space stood up on the field of play.
There you go.
Keep the clock moving.
That's right. Look, I think the joint practice like they had this week in Oxnard has become the new model, especially for McVay and the Rams. You can just get so much more into those controlled settings, like 70, 80 reps, and you can show a few more of your cards. Not all of them, but you can work on specific packages, down and distance, personnel groupings that you don't get to see when you go up against your own offense or defense. So I think in terms of what can the Cowboys get from the Rams and vice versa, that's already in the rearview mirror. Today is, for instance, about seeing what Stetson Bennett has at quarterback, getting in and out of a huddle, managing a line of scrimmage. Now, is it going to be too revealing for him, given the offensive line he's going to be playing behind and the skill position players or lack thereof that are going to be lining up with him? No, but I think this is an important step forward for him to take if he hopes to make this roster. And there's a real opportunity for Stetson, too, I would say, because Jimmy Garoppolo is the Rams' backup, but he's suspended the first 2 weeks. So they very much need a backup to step forward for at Detroit and at Arizona, the Rams' first 2 games. And then it's a look at some younger emerging talents. Even some of the higher drafted rookies won't play for the Rams today. But, we're all chasing what you guys have in Brandon Aubrey, and the Rams did draft a kicker out of Stanford and Joshua Carty. So this will be the first time he, for instance, kicks inside SoFi Stadium. And while I think he's the front runner for that job, you just want to avoid disaster, right, in the kicking game where the Rams were the worst team in the NFL. So little nuanced takeaways like that are about as much as I'm putting stock in today's game.
Hey, JB, we're trying to kind of figure out the kickoff return game. What is, on your end, what is your special teams coach talked about, maybe the advantages or disadvantages, or anything you can kind of share with us that from your side?
Yeah, Chase Blackburn, who is a great special teams player in his own right and a Super Bowl champion in New York, had a rough go of it. I mean, I think he was dealt a tough hand to start his tenure here in Los Angeles, but he comes back with the chance to be the most improved group, the most improved unit in the National Football League. How he handles that and what success or failures the Rams have will go a long way, I think, to determining whether the Rams are able to build off of a wild card bid last season. Like, there's no greater area for improvement. And this is also a team that I think has to win on the margins. They have to manage the clock well, use their timeouts proficiently, can't lose the turnover battle, have to gain points, not lose points in the kicking game. And it's not just making your kicks, it's field position, where they were among the league's bottom last year as well. So I think all of those elements are very much in play. I will say, from what I've heard from Sean McVay, I don't know that he's the most enthusiastic head coach in the league with respect to what we've done. And so it'll still be a month yet until I think we know what everyone's true colors will be in that regard. But from what I've seen in the preseason so far, it's at least brought that play, brought the kickoff back into the game, which I think the intentions are good. Whether or not it still needs refinement, we'll find out here soon enough.
JB, pardon us. We're going to pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
This is the exclusive home of Dallas Cowboys football. KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas, Fort Worth. Let's go, Cowboys.
An Odyssey station.
Behind enemy lines with JB Long, voice of the Rams here, getting you set for preseason game number 1. Cowboys in Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Now, big name dude, rookie last year, Puka Nacua. I know we didn't get to see him in the joint practice. Certainly won't see him today, and he's dealing with a bit of an injury. But could you give us an update on him? I might be asking for fantasy reasons.
I get it. And let me apologize. I have a tendency to be long-winded, but I've never put a host up against the top of the hour station ID break. So put that one on me, the first unforced error of the preseason.
No, we're just really bad with the clock. We're a poor clock management team,
that's
JB.
On us,
that's on us. That's on us.
That goes around here, too. Puka's obviously building off of the greatest rookie receiving season in NFL history. But I think what's different about this year is Cooper Kupp, his running mate, is healthy. And they both do so many unique things, not just catching the football and when they have it in their hands, transitioning after the catch, but impacting the running surface for the Rams. And Sean McVay has those cut splits. He has them involved. I almost call them like wide ends or tight receivers, right? Because there's so much more than just receivers, and he does that uniquely well like Cooper Kupp does. Not 100% healthy right now. Had that like bursa sac rupture about a week ago, I guess, in the joint practices against the Chargers. But to answer your fantasy football question, there's been no indication that he should be anything but full go in week 1 against the Detroit Lions. But I think what we never saw in its fullest fruition last year is what this offense could look like when Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are both on the field together and feeling right. You know, Cooper was a shell of himself last season. I don't think anyone would hide that. I'm not saying he's going to have another Triple Crown campaign, but if he's closer to that than what he was last season, you're going to really have to pick your poison with this Rams offense because DeMarcus Robinson is a great third receiver as well.
JB, you guys have a nice back there in Williams, the running back there, but how has Blake Corum done for you guys? I follow the draft extensively. I mean, we have draft shows and stuff that we do here in Dallas, and I did like Blake Corum a lot. How has he been for you guys in the practices and some of the other work that you've been able to see him get?
You know, I think he's an interesting case study because throughout McVay's 8-year tenure, it's been really difficult for young running backs to get on the field.
Yeah.
You know, Todd Gurley dominated those early years and would not give way. He was the ultimate 3-down back. And it became very difficult for McVay to trust a young running back, much less a rookie running back, in his huddle because so much was asked of him, not just with the ball in his hands, but also in pass protection. I think Kyren Williams is the exception that proves that rule, and it was so effective with the way that they ran the football last year with him in the backfield that I think they effectively doubled down on that. They went and found the closest thing they could to Kyren Williams, such that if he is not able to play 17 games, this offense should not have to change its identity with Blake Corum. Seeing him in person, it's astounding. I mean, he's built like a fire hydrant, and I mean that in the most complimentary way.
Yeah.
I work with Maurice Jones-Drew, who is he's over the moon with the return of the stocky running back.
Yeah.
You know, the way
he's
that
a fire hydrant too. Yeah,
that's right. And he loves what they've done to kind of build this backfield out in the mold of Kyren Williams. And then the last thing I'll say is because of the coach he played for and the program he came from, mentally, he's as ready to play professional football as any rookie running back that I've been exposed to.
Voice of the Rams, JB Long, with us here on The Fan. Before we let you out of here, JB, I'm just curious, big picture, NFL storylines, things that have you fired up coming into this season. What's one of your NFL storylines you're most looking forward to here?
Well, I'll kind of hit on within our division, if you don't mind, because obviously San Francisco has been the reigning power, and to me they have a little bit of a last dance feel to them with this 2024 campaign because of all the games they've logged over the last few years and because of the contracts that are coming due, some of which we're already seeing playing out this summer. But up in Seattle, with the coaching change, Pete Carroll finally being replaced by a defensive-minded coach who I think McDonald is like leading the next Vic Fangio type charge of defensive philosophy coming from Baltimore. The Rams have played Seattle really well throughout the years, and I think that could change based on the roster they have, and they might have a similar kind of hockey stick moment by hiring the next now youngest coach in the National Football League. And I believe Arizona could be one of the most improved teams in the NFL as well. So the path, be it for the Niners or for the Rams or really anyone through the NFC, I think looks a lot different this year, because the NFC West isn't regarded as one of the better divisions, but close to it as I am, I have great respect for the potential in front of them.
Wonderful. JB, you're the man. Really appreciate the time, my friend. Enjoy the game and have an awesome season.
All right, I wish you well with your next top-of-the-hour station identification.
Thank you. We're 0 for 1 now to kick things off. Just fantastic. JB Long, ladies and gentlemen, Rams play-by-play man, live at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, getting you set for Cowboys preseason game number 1 right here on your home of the Cowboys. We'll go inside the star with Bobby Belt. We still have around the NFL camps. Babe Laufenberg set to join us, Kristi Scales as well. And we are excited to be with you. It's a Cowboy game day. It's a football Sunday. Are you kidding me? Let's break it down inside the star with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, next on The Fan.
Dallas Cowboys fans know a thing or two about legacy, commitment, and loyalty. That's why Kohler is our proud partner. With more than 150 years of craftsmanship, leading edge.
training camp long for the station. So he's getting it done out there in his personal paradise and watching all the football, talking all the football. Yesterday we had our Hurtado Barbecue 2024 Fan Ball Extravaganza. Broaddus, missed you greatly. There was a gaping Broaddus-sized hole there that was a little bit sad, but we were talking about you. Everybody was thinking about you, and we were all like, you know what, Broaddus is in his element, so I'm sure he's not even having that much FOMO right now because you're just doing what you love.
I'm grateful I wasn't part of the program out there. Did Dawson just destroy our show? I mean, with it sounded like you went down, Wolchuk went down. I would have probably went down. I mean, I don't know who I'd have played in the first round. It was probably been an L. I'm a veteran, older team that probably needs to draft to get better.
Restock the pond a little bit.
Restock, yeah, older team, probably going to struggle a little bit. Hey, I know we're talking about things here and having a little fun. I'm trying to get an update on Guyton. Nick Harris from DallasCowboys.com is saying that Guyton appears to be in the same type of track suit gear that Diggs is in. So Diggs, we know, is not playing. I wonder if Guyton is not going to play either. So trying to get an update from the field, but Nick Harris is making it sound like that maybe Guyton won't be part of the action today. They were going to try him again. The report I got was if he was going to play, he was going to be on a pitch count, but it sounds like maybe that he's not going to be available. But I'm trying to get that confirmed right now as we speak, and hopefully I'll get that done as our show's going on.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, Broaddus, just jump in with that as soon as you get confirmation on it. Right now we go inside the Star with Bobby Belt, our Cowboys insider, live in studio with me here back at 75 and Fitzhugh, and he is off quite the Hurtado bender yesterday, Broaddus. So I'm impressed with how just alert. He's alert. He has his faculties about him.
Yeah, I saw some clips from the event, and Bobby was arguing with somebody with a calculator. Somebody was adding up the totals of the scores.
Yeah.
And Bobby evidently got worked. And then now he's mad at Peyton because he got worked, and so all kinds of things go on.
Yeah, I was more, Brian, I wasn't arguing with the math. The math of it was correct. I got absolutely dog walked. 96-51 in 10 minutes.
You can't argue with the fact.
I can't argue with that. 96-51, absolutely got trashed.
Who'd you play?
Peyton.
Oh,
and so
geez.
who I was arguing with was Peyton for being such a loser that he was so obsessed with standing over and watching it getting calculated. It's like, we know you beat me. You don't need to stand there with your phone out watching it being tallied up, Peyton. So that's what I was taking issue with, was how obsessively he wanted to know exactly how bad he beat me, because we knew he did.
Yeah, it was a great time. Dawson did make it to the championship bout versus Choppy.
Good for him. Good for our show.
Yeah, it was good for our show. And I went toe-to-toe with Dawson. I felt good about what I did out there. I mean, I left it all on the field. He did tear up Wolchuk a little bit. But Wolchuk was partying and having himself a good time. So yesterday, Fan Bowl was wonderful. And Bobby, you look great, man. You come in here, you have there's color in your face, and you're not dragging at all. You look ready for a Cowboy football Sunday.
Color in my face, and it's not red like it was yesterday.
Yeah, it was very very red.
No,
yesterday.
This is exciting. As much as it's in a lot of ways feels like a throwaway game of sorts. Like I heard Bryan driving in here. Bryan, listen to me. Listen to me what I'm saying. In the sense of if you're talking about, is this going to feel like real week one everyday football? No, of course not. But it's the game being played. There's a ton of really interesting storylines. There's a ton of really interesting individuals on here who there's a lot on the line for them, whether it be, the first indicators of what they can be or what kind of success they can have, or whether it's guys fighting for jobs or fighting for spots. So there's a ton of intriguing, interesting storylines here. So on the surface, you're like, first preseason game. What does this even matter? A bunch of starters aren't playing. When you actually look at it past that, you're like, no, there's a lot that we can take from today that'll be really productive for the Cowboys. That'll be really productive for things that we're going to look out for the rest of the season. And it's the first little morsels of football seasons here. Here it is. We finally arrived. We've got football. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited to watch the fourth quarter of of guys whose names I've never heard of before on both sides. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's because you're a football guy.
Well, this is where if you want more negativity, join the show at 5:30 a.m. tomorrow and listen to.
Hey,
that's not negativity. I just said positively, Brian.
Show. Hey, okay, Bobby.
6 a.m.
Bobby at 6 a.m. JB Long of the broadcast team for the Rams.
Yep.
I asked him the question about Rams run defense because we did see some positivity from the Cowboys run offense against. Did you have a chance to hear JB talk about that they feel like that they will be better with the run defense even though they don't have Aaron Donald anymore? Should that be something that as we go into today's game kind of think, okay, I got to keep an eye on this? Is the Cowboys run offense maybe better than what we were talking about?
Oh yeah, I think we need to definitely watch trench work today. That's going to be a big part of this, specifically
but not
in the
without
run
the
game.
Starters, right? But
right.
Just in general, right?
Yeah, even without the starters in there, I mean, there are going to be guys in here, whether it be within the offensive line that you're looking at and saying, hey, there's a good shot. Some of these guys who are starting today will have to start at some point this season.
Exactly, yeah.
Because that's just the war of attrition. And getting a chance to see other guys within this running back depth chart, like, Nathaniel Pete, and seeing what kind of juice they have and different players like that. And so I think there's absolutely things about this that will be indicative of the running game. Can you take all of it and apply it in a paste and say, oh, here you go, the way they perform today, that tells us if they're good or not? No, but that's the whole point of what this is. This game will leave you great clues as to who these players are.
How about that? Yeah, physicality.
Tone.
Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna get a grasp of all of those things. And so for me, yeah, I think this is something where you're absolutely going to be able to see good indicators and good clues about what they can be in the run game this year. You can't take all of it and just say, oh, here it is, but there's plenty to sift through and say, okay, here's something worthwhile. Here's something that we can look at. These are valuable things to know.
If you look at the situation too now on the flip side of the defense, and there's going to be eyes on, and we'll see with Mozzie Smith and how that play. I'm anxious to see if guys like Mozzie, Nealon, I think Nealon, those guys. Some of these defensive linemen need the work. I mean, you're not going to see Tank and others like that, probably not Osa and people like that. But I have some questions about this tackle group, but I'm excited about seeing Nealon playing edge.
Yeah, I think that Nealon playing edge is going to be exciting because of specifically how some of the markers that I think we were all concerned about with Nealon coming out of college, looked better, I think, in Oxnard than we'd seen on tape at Western Michigan. So that's not something that in terms of that's something that I'm less concerned about than I was coming into training camp. I'm excited to see what that could look like here. Also, I do think some of the reps he may take on the interior today are going to be interesting because he's talked himself during training camp about how that's going to be something that he's going to be asked to do a little bit this year. Is take some work inside, and that he needs those reps. He needs that experience. And so I'll have my eyes specifically on what he's doing, not only on the edge and seeing, all right, does this look like some of the context clues we've been given during training camp? Do I see some of that showing up today? But also then when he kicks inside, seeing some of the development, seeing his comfort level and how he's prepared to play. Because when you kick on the inside like that, both offensive and defensive line, things just happen so much faster in there than on the edges.
Did Carson run Nahshon Wright out of town here?
Man, he very well might have. Carson is a guy that I know they are absolutely excited about. Kalen Carson, who they picked out of the 5th round from Wake Forest, he is a guy who they felt like blinking light. Like
they loved him.
That's a guy who they had graded way higher than where they picked him in the 5th round. Yeah. And is somebody that, you got to Oxnard, and even before that, after the draft, you heard people with the team very excited talking about him. We all thought like he was a better player than a 5th round player when we watched him on tape leading up to the draft. And when you got to Oxnard and you started hearing some just different folks around the practice fields talking about him, people with the team, you started hearing a lot of, boy, that Kalen Carson, that's a good football player. Don't think we missed there. We think we found one right there. And so, yeah, he absolutely could have expedited things with Nahshon Wright a little bit. And I think that he's somebody who they like just about everything they've seen from him in terms of his competitiveness, some of the physicality that he's shown at times, the fieriness, the stickiness. He's really, I think one of the things that I've liked about him is I see a really patient guy. And I think that what you've got in Carson is is a real deal, long-term potential starter here at corner that you picked up in the 5th round.
Bobby, who needs a better day, Luke Schoonmaker or John Stevens?
Probably Stevens, in the sense of if you're just talking about the immediate future, just because Schoonmaker is a former 2nd-round pick. But, man, it's got to start happening for Luke Schoonmaker. We're hitting a time just even a year and a couple months after the time he was drafted where it's like, man, always hurt. And when you're not hurt, are you showing up the way you need to? And it hasn't felt that way yet. So I think for just a positive indicator, a positive feeling for everybody in the organization, it would be great if Luke Schoonmaker could show up and pop a little bit in this game, because you start having a little bit of that unease, a little bit of that antsiness when you think about former 2nd-round tight ends that have been through this building before and then not clicked the way that they wanted to, or you start thinking about years ago, a guy like, Jacob Rogers, a 2nd-round pick who
drove by his high school yesterday.
A 2nd-round pick who it just never clicked and was always hurt. And that's the kind of thing that you're just starting to get that same sort of unease, I think, about Luke Schoonmaker. So, yeah, I think in order for everybody to feel good, it would be Schoonmaker.
All right, we're going inside the star here with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, getting you set for Cowboys-Rams preseason game number 1. Now, obviously, big storyline, quarterback, Trey Lance. How much do we need to be seeing of him tonight? Like, if it's my call, I don't even need to see Cooper Rush. I need 4 quarters of Trey Lance. Like, if I'm the one making the decisions. What say you? We start with Bobby.
I wouldn't have any problem with that. Just saying, throw Trey Lance out there, let him get as many reps as he can, and just let him take over the game and do whatever it is that he's got to do. He to me is that's to me the number one guy that you're watching out there today is Trey Lance. That's the number one guy we've been watching. I feel like all training camp. You get into OTAs and minicamp, the guy we were most interested in watching was probably Trey Lance. We get into training camp, it's been Trey Lance, and now we're getting into the preseason games, and it's Trey Lance because we didn't get a chance to see him at all last year. Like, the media doesn't get a chance to watch him once the regular season starts. We're not allowed out of practice when the quarterbacks are working. So May, June, that's the first time we see Lance in any capacity. And then we get out to Oxnard. That's the first time we see him in a full practice. And so this will be the first time to really see him in a full game within this offense. And I know Bryan's talked about it. I've heard some others. Sounds like he's improved. Sounds like he's gotten better in the last couple of Oxnard practices. So that's a positive. Because the guy that I saw in Oxnard before we left wasn't a good football player at all.
Yeah.
And so I need to see a lot from him today.
Yeah, and I tell you what, as we close this thing out, I think with Trey Lance, he's going to be working with receivers that are capable of getting open and making him look good. It's not like he's going to be playing with some bums out there. Every one of these guys that are going to line up today at receiver has got a shot to be the 6th or the 7th guy here. And so he is going to get a good group of guys that's going to make him look good if he gets the ball to him on target.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful for him. I mean, to give himself an opportunity here with some solid pass catchers. Broaddus, since we've left and you got to see the joint practice and everything, have you seen some signs of positivity as it comes to Trey Lance now?
Yeah, it's going to be all about that red zone stuff, the tight red zone. Early in this camp, as Bobby was talking about, he wasn't very good. And recognition. Be patient. Don't throw the ball and put the ball into harm's way. Trey Lance could drive the ball. We've seen him in these practices in 2-minute drill drive the football. They get tight red zone, and then all of a sudden he starts to panic a little bit. They don't need him to panic. Find ways to make throws. If the throw's not there, throw it away, and then live to fight another day. That's what Trey Lance is going to have to learn.
Beautiful. All right, Bryan Broaddus is live in Oxnard, California. Boots on the ground, all training camp for us here at 105.3 The Fan. That is Inside the Star with our guy, Bobby Bell. Bob, you're the man. Thank you, sir.
I love you all.
There he goes. Now, coming up next, let's take a look at the rest of the NFL. I also want to get some thoughts from Broaddus on this rookie class. We know last year's rookie class, Mozzie Smith, Scooney, a little bit underwhelming to say the least, but this year's rookie class seems to be hitting the ground running to this point in training camp. We'll go around the NFL and take a look at the rookies with Broaddus live on the official pregame show of America's Team next year on The Fan.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Get ready for some football. Embassy Suites by Hilton Dallas Frisco is only a mile from your team's headquarters. Book now to touch down in a 2-room suite. Kick off with free made-to-order breakfast and intercept complimentary drinks and snacks at evening receptions. From September the 7th through December 31st, receive a discounted rate if you mention our football rate. Book your stay at Embassy Suites by Hilton Dallas Frisco Convention Center and Spa by calling 972-712-7.
Boys pregame show brought to you by
Bill Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Jack Link's, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
2 hours to kick off here, preseason opener. Welcome into the pregame show, official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Great to have you in. First football Sunday of the year. Sort of the unofficial start here, but this is a fun time to see the young guys, Broaddus, and tonight is going to give us every opportunity to do so. Broaddus is live in Oxnard, California right now. We're doing a little, it's like the pandemic radio right now, you and me, Broaddus.
How about that? Yeah.
We're very versed in this particular line of broadcasting.
I'm waiting for, and I know some people are waiting for this themselves, I'm waiting for confirmation. It doesn't sound like that Guyton is out today. It does not sound like that. Now, I'm waiting for confirmation from one more of my sources there.
Cool.
So I will get the final, but I did ask if Guyton was out, and I got no rep count. So again, asking one more person here just to make sure where we're at. And once I get that, I did ask about being out, and it was a no and a rep count. So, maybe, like I say, Nick Harris was talking about that. Maybe it appeared that way with Guyton. Let's see what happens. If I can get the one more confirmation, I'll bring it to you guys. But right now, my one other guy said that he will be playing. So we'll see if we can follow that thing up completely and get him on that football field. And that'd be great for everybody that's interested in Guyton getting some work today.
Yeah, that's our new shiny toy that stands 6'7", 330 pounds of nothing but athleticism, dude. Watching him, seeing him up close when we were in Oxnard, my goodness. This guy is just a physical monster, a lean 330 pounds, arms looking like a pterodactyl, 6'7", just towering over these dudes. And the athleticism stood out in a big way. I'm curious when it comes to this particular rookie draft class, and it's obviously very early to start projecting too far out, but the early returns on this year's rookie class, from Guyton to Nealand to Carson to Beebe to Chiofalo, a lot of these guys are looking like the real deal, Broaddus.
They needed this. They needed last year hasn't been as beneficial, and we'll see. We'll see with Mazi. I keep talking about Mazi to the point where he looks capable. He has moments of where he does everything they ask him to do, and then he'll fade away. He needs to be more consistent. Those are the opportunities that he needs to take advantage of. He needs to be more consistent with his play. Schoonmaker needs to stay healthy. That hasn't been the case. You look at the situation with Overshown coming back. He's shown promise. They're kind of working with him the way he is. I like what I've seen from Overshown so far, is working his way back. Fehoko is not been as good as maybe others thought, and he was drafted by a previous regime. When you look at Dan Quinn, had a plan for him. There's times like with Mazi, he's flashed. I'm going through all these guys because it's the opposite of what you have with this current class.
Right.
That everybody that is getting opportunity is finding ways to show up, and they need that. This team prides itself on its ability to draft, and it prides itself on its ability to sign its own. We're at that point now where we're trying to sign our own. Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, that they don't deal in free agency. Their free agency is signing their own. And whether you like that or not, that's the way they operate. But they needed this draft class, and there were some questions. I had questions about, the running back room, and, would you been able to take a running back instead of taking Chiofalo, when he was drafted, or do you take a running back when Carson was there? So, that they didn't have the 4th round pick. They used the extra pick they got on BB. he's starting to show some promise that he's kind of picking some things up. And so, yeah, it's really, really positive with this current draft class. But they need that group from last year, the Mozzies, the Schoonmakers. They need those guys to step up in a big way too.
Yeah, there's no question about that, man. The Mozzie stuff, I mean, I think this scheme is definitely more favorable for him with what Zimmer and company's brought in, but it's touch and go. You see a couple of moments there. He had some nice moments in the joint practice the other day. Now, this is a pretty down-and-out Rams line right now, especially as it stands with some of the injuries that they're currently dealing with, but you'll take any positivity on the Mozzie front as you can. Is that a guy, like I'm saying, hey, I want to see Trey Lance for 4 quarters today? I'd like to see 4 quarters of Mozzie Smith out there. I know he's going to be huffing and puffing, but my dear God, man, we might need to get 4 quarters out of Mozzie tonight, Broaddus.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that, the thing that set Mozzie back in the Rams scrimmage, and there were clips of him rushing the passer one-on-one or rushing, the one-on-one drills. And I used the word capable. He came off the ball, swim technique, flat back, pressure, push, all those things. Those are great things. And you need to see more of that. You need to see more of the consistency of that. And when he got to the team period on my field, his stance became poor. They ran him a bunch of reps in a row. So he's working, and his stance became poor, his technique became poor, his effort was poor. They've got to find ways, and people will say, well, hey, Bryan, maybe it's because of his shoulder. Maybe he couldn't work like he needed to. Britt Brown works these guys extremely hard when they're over on those courts. He needs to find a way to be in better condition. I'm not asking Mozzie Smith to be Aaron Donald. I'm not. I'm just asking him to be good, and I'm asking him to be consistent. If he's those two things, this defense will be better. They will be better if Mozzie Smith is a better player. They've got the pieces to be a really good defense. And they've got the defensive coordinator that can make them a really good defense. But they need these defensive tackles to step up in a big way. And Mozzie Smith was a part of that. He was a first-round pick. Now, yeah, being late in the first round, probably had a second-round grade, that kind of thing. We usually have between 18 and 21 or 22 first-round grades. Mozzie might have fallen out of that group. But still, they drafted him in an area where they felt like that he could come in and help them be good on defense. And he needs to live up to his part of the bargain.
Yeah, when you look at the defense right now, man, I'll tell you what, I came away pretty dang impressed. I was excited about what Mike Zimmer was going to bring to the table. Obviously, the toughness and just the personnel differences from him to Dan Quinn with a little bit more base and a little bit more like, hey, we're coming to play when it comes to teams like Buffalo's not going to run for 200-plus yards on us. We're not just going to let something like that happen to us. But there is a blinking light there, especially on the interior of that defensive line.
There is.
Having somebody that could be a space eater. These linebackers are head and shoulders better than what they were last year because they actually have adults in the room. They have real linebackers when you get to Eric Kendricks and company, and then bringing in, obviously, Chiofalo, and you'll have Overshown coming back. Damone Clark, I know, is
playing better. See, this is, and you're absolutely right, Eric. They misevaluated. Okay, and I just got confirmation that 60 is dressing today. So
awesome.
Awesome. 60 will be in the action with the pitch count and all that. So keep an eye on him.
That's first-round pick Tyler Guyton out of OU, left tackle. Had some great moments versus Micah when we were out there. He's been a little bit under the weather over the last week or so.
Chest colds, yeah.
Cool, but we'll get to see him tonight. That's exciting.
I got some confirmation that he will be dressing. So we'll see how much he goes. But to get back to the linebackers, this was a room that they really misevaluated last year. And a lot of it, Dan Quinn plays a dime package. He is interested in getting that safety down in the box. They gambled. They gambled on Clark. They gambled on Leighton Vander Esch. Once Leighton Vander Esch got hurt, now really all bet. They did not have the bodies like they have now. They are not going to go through this year what they went through last year with these linebackers. Not going to do it. It's one of the strengths of this defense is this linebacker room. And so I like what they've done there so far. I think it's one of those groups that will have a positive impact on this defense going forward.
Yes, without question. And I was really impressed with what I saw with not only the linebackers but the secondary. I mean, Jordan Lewis really coming to play. Deron Bland picking up where he left off. I think the safeties and the safeties are asked to do a decent amount of stuff here in this particular Zimmer scheme. I think, we talk about the defensive tackles, Broaddus, but when you start wondering, hey, how is this thing going to age throughout the season? You look at the Sam Williams injury, the depth on the defensive line. Like, where are you at just across the board on this?
Yeah, there's still some questions about that. And you don't have Armstrong and you don't have Fowler, and Sam Williams was part of that group. I do think that they looking at Marshawn Nealon, and me personally, I was concerned about Nealon as a pass rusher coming out of Western Michigan. I know Bobby kind of hinted when we were talking with him earlier that maybe there were some things in Western Michigan where we didn't see the bend and we didn't see the explosiveness. We saw a really good run defender, but there's some things that Nealon, he might not be the pass rusher of Sam Williams, but he's a better run defender. So now you're talking about, can you get some pass rush with quality run defense? They need to be better on that right side of the defense. They struggled over there last year. If you look at how the physicality that those guys had to face, there were a lot of times where that ball cut back and is off that right side, and you don't have, and all of a sudden they made Sam have to play. They made Armstrong have to play. They made those guys have to play, and they were not up to it. And then, Diggs at times is, Diggs will give ground. Occasionally he'll fill. But the safeties, they struggled over on that side with some run defense stuff. So that'll be a lot better group with what they've got now with Nealon over there. And if you get Carson playing some over there too, helping out,
yeah,
Carson will tackle. They've got safeties that'll tackle. I mean, there's a couple of times in practice where, the offense tried to run the ball off the edge, and here comes Hooker down, or here comes Wilson down. Wilson has got to develop a little bit better understanding of where he fits and how he finishes. He'll finish with a thump, but we saw in the Arizona game, he could be out of position. He could take a bad angle. Bad angles and out of position lead to big runs. They don't need that to happen in this defense this year.
It's the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys here on 105.3 The Fan. Kickoff with America's team on and off the reels with Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Do you have a gambling problem? Please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 years and over. What are you chuckling over there? I'm in preseason form.
There's nothing better than like, hey, come gamble, but if you got a problem, call this number.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to bash me for how I'm trying to say Aristocrat, some of these things.
Yeah, it's all good.
That was a cold read.
Have you never seen that read before?
I had never seen it. It's a new one. This is a new one for this year.
Is the name of the company Aristocrat?
Let's see. It is developed by Aristocrat.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on board.
Cowboys themed casino. Yeah, man.
Right.
But yes, rest assured, if you do have that gambling problem, you can contact 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Hey, dude, I saw Broaddus for the first time. We have done it. We have made history with a real-life NFL game and a player wearing a Guardian cap over his helmet. That was Jonathan.
Pittsburgh or Buffalo? Which one?
It was Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts.
I think it happened before this.
Oh, you saw one earlier?
I think there's an offensive lineman for the Steelers, I want to say, that I think they played their game earlier. So I think there's been 3 guys that I've seen so far, but the Steelers, I think, had the first with the Guardian cap.
Groundbreaking.
One of their tackles was wearing, and it didn't look like it. It was kind of, the Steelers are kind of a good test case for this because they don't have a logo on one side of their helmet, so all they had was the one, like what they normally have, but it didn't look goofy or crazy or anything like that. It looked like it was well thought out.
The still shot photo of this Jonathan Taylor, like this angle I'm getting, it looks a little bit alien-like, but they have the sleeves now that cover it that look like the helmet of the team with the same color helmet and the decals and everything. So they're trying to sort of disguise it and hide it in plain sight. But this Jonathan Taylor one it's abnormal with just how big his head looks here. But that's where we're at. The Guardian Caps are making their way into the sport.
They're making their way. Yes, they sure are.
We're seeing them all over the practice fields, but now we'll be seeing them on football Sundays, and today is the first football Sunday of the year. It's great to have you in the official pregame show of America's team. We are under 2 hours to kick off, and let's go live to Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. Babe Laufenberg joins us next right here on The Fan.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys.
And they snap at the press.
SoFi Stadium, Los Angeles. Babe Laufenberg, familiar with the area. This is a home game for you, Babe. How the heck are you, dude?
I'm not going to lie to you, fellas. I spent the night at my brother's. Actually, Friday after practice, since we weren't allowed to go to Saturday practice, I spent the night at my brother's Friday and Saturday night. And I like this brother. I really do. Mainly because he lives in Manhattan Beach, and I have about a 10-minute walk to the beach.
You just can't beat it.
You tend to be really popular in the family when you live in Manhattan Beach.
Yes, yes. Yeah, the friend with the boat is everybody's best friend. I totally get that. Babe, well, it's great to hear from you, man. Welcome to a brand new Cowboys season. We start the preseason now. We got a couple of weeks of this. Big picture, what would you like to, starting tonight to the end of the preseason, what would you like to see happen here with this team before we get started for the regular season?
Yeah, for me, I should say, there's two things that I want to know about when they come out of camp or start the regular season. And one is obviously the quarterback, Trey Lance. We know he's going to play a bunch, but it's time to kind of see what he has got. And, again, he's going to play a ton. But they got to know what they have in him by the time they start the regular season, or at least have a better idea. The second is Tyler Guyton. Unfortunately, he has been sick through some of this camp. Not a good thing for a rookie. Well documented. He had 14 starts as a tackle in college. And I don't know if you guys know this, but they're playing Cleveland in the opener.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they got a pretty good pass rusher over there in Myles Garrett. So yeah. I want to know when they break camp, is this guy going to be able to – he's not going to dominate Myles because no one does, but is this guy going to be able to hold his own over there at left tackle with a little bit of help? But to me, those are the two big things, though, that left tackle position and Trey Lance, and the rest I leave up to the coaches, right?
Yeah, and Babe, and that's a good analysis of really kind of where this thing's at. I would kind of throw in there about this running game. I know we talked to JB Long of the Rams. The Dallas Cowboys in the scrimmage had a little bit of success of running the football, and I was wondering how is the Rams, are they any good playing run defense, or is Dallas better than what we thought? And I want to ask you, where do you have the run offense on your checklist of things that you need to have a better grasp of?
It's a good question. I'd like to see it a little bit better. It's just interesting when they say first-team offense and Ezekiel Elliott goes out there. 5 years ago, I would have said awesome.
Right.
Now, if he's your number one back, I don't know how strong that backfield is.
Sure.
We kind of know about Rico Dowdle.
Right.
He had 89 carries last year. We kind of know a little bit about what he is. Malik Davis, same kind of guy. Unfortunately, Royce Freeman, who they picked up, played for the Rams last year, as a matter of fact. They liked him, but he's been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So the running game is going to be in question for me, and I think it's going to be a little bit that way all season long. I don't think they're not going to be a great running team.
Okay.
I don't know if they can be a good running team. It's almost like you just hope they can be an average running team, where it isn't a liability. That's, I think, as good as it's going to get, as far as I'm concerned.
Babe, through your experience as a National Football League player and as a broadcaster, can they scheme a better running game, or is it just really about who they have available to run the football?
I think the second point, who's your back? Now, if you had a great offensive line, obviously they're going to make – hey, we all know what Denver did with their running game under Mike Shanahan, right? They just plugged in guys. Six-rounders, here's 1,500 yards. Clinton Portis, second-rounder, here's 1,800 yards. I mean, they just came one after the other. Terrell Davis, right? I mean, that running game and that offensive line took care of the running backs. Obviously, you're going to have a new center here. You're going to have a new left tackle here. There's certainly that center and left tackle are not going to be as good in game one as the guys they had playing there last year. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I kind of feel like that maybe there's a little bit of a wash at center right now. And I will say that I think Hoffman's stronger. I don't think he's as athletic as what Broaddus was.
That's Broaddus.
Yeah, and the left tackle, you're absolutely right, because you're looking at a rookie situation there.
And that's not to say that, he won't be a Hall of Famer one day. I'm not.
Right, exactly.
This is in no way disparaging his talent and ability, but boy, again, 14 starts in college football. Yeah. And they had a pretty good left tackle over there, as we know, when he was healthy in Tyron Smith. So that's a difficult deal there.
Babe Laufenberg.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? Quickly, though, Brian, I always love it, right? Because I did. I think a lot of people, plugged in Cooper Beebe. Well, there's your starting center.
Sure.
And somebody forgot to tell Brock Hoffman.
Yeah,
because he's been playing pretty well.
Yeah, Mike Solari has been very consistent, and this even started way back before the draft, of reminding us that, hey, don't forget Brock Hoffman. Don't forget Brock. He was really consistent about that, and the more you kind of, as you went along, you were like, okay, Brock Hoffman is going to get the first crack at this job. And the learning curve for Cooper Beebe, I think it's shrunk some, and these games will help him a lot, for sure. Get an opportunity to kind of get better there. But I think Mike Solari was adamant that you guys keep not talking about Brock Hoffman here. Please, make sure you mention Brock Hoffman. But I think that's where we're at right now.
And I will say, I always defer to the coaches. I really do. If I go and talk to a coach and I have an opinion of a guy, but he has a different opinion, I assume that my opinion is incorrect. I'm not seeing what that guy does because obviously they see him every day. They're watching the film. They're around the guy. So it's beneficial for me when, just like you said, when Mike Solari said, hey, don't count this Brock Hoffman out. It's like, boy, my ears better perk up a little. I'll never forget very quickly. Back in the Tony Romo day, he's a rookie, Eastern Illinois. I knew nothing about him, right? Sean Payton was the quarterback coach. I was friendly with Sean. I went to Sean after practice one day. I'm just talking with him, and I said, hey, this about 10 days in, right? I said, this Romo guy, I said, he seems to have something. And he said, he's doing okay. And I said, well, he's certainly getting through his reads quickly and, blah, blah, blah. And he said, he's doing okay. And I said, he's really accurate. He's got nice touch on the various passes. And he said, he's doing okay. And I said, okay, so Sean, I'm clearly seeing more in him than you're seeing in him. And again, that's where I defer to Sean Payton. So Sean says, off the record? And I said, of course, off the record. He said, I love the guy.
Sean's a good evaluator.
I'm like, why are you trying to BS me? I'm seeing good things. But there are times where I see more in a guy than the coach does. And when that happens, again, I defer to the coach because he's seeing him more than I am.
Babe, the next thing on my checklist, I'm going to see if it matches yours.
Okay.
I'm interested in the defensive tackles, and I'm not just talking about Mazi Smith. I'm talking about as a group. I have a feeling this defense has got a chance to be pretty good with what we've seen so far in camp, how they were competitive against the Rams on Thursday. I like what I saw there. I have my concerns about the group itself. Where does the defensive tackles fall on your radar screen?
Not real high, only because I always say if the defensive tackle screws up, gets pushed out, takes a wrong step, it's an 8-yard gain instead of a 4-yard gain, right? That's the worst thing that's going to happen is they gain 8 because you're tackling them at the second level when you wanted that guy. Mm-hmm. Whereas, I look at those corners.
Right.
That guy screws up and it's a touchdown.
It's a big play. Right.
And Mike McCarthy talks about it all the time, and it's not necessarily a novel thought process, but he always talks about in order to score, you got to get big plays. Somewhere you got to find big plays in your offense. And big plays do not come in the running game. They come in the big plays, for the most part, 90% of the time are going to come in your pass game. And I don't mean a 76-yard touchdown. I just mean picking up 20, 25, those are going to come in the passing game. So I'm much more concerned about can I rush the passer and cover people on the back end than those tackles. But, right now that tackle position, Mazi Smith has not shown a whole lot more to me in this camp than we saw from him last year.
Sure.
So it would be an area of concern, no question. And interesting, too, how many teams are now content to really run the ball on you? Right. Buffalo did it last year. Mm-hmm. A lot of teams talk about getting the running game going. They run it twice, and then they start throwing it all over the place. So not quite as. I tell you what, though, I do like Eric Kendricks sitting in the middle. And I know he's in his 10th year. And
yeah, I do too.
But, man, I stayed the other day, Brian, at the joint practice. They were on parallel fields, and so the Cowboys offense was on one side against the Rams defense. On the other field, it was flipped. And I just stayed on the Rams side, mainly because I love watching Matthew Stafford throw the football.
Sure.
I'm not kidding. I'm like, I just love watching him throw the football. But I'm down there. Eric Kendricks made a play and came in, lit up the back, you could just see him reading the whole play developing in front of him. And as soon as he saw it, boom, he went like a shot. And the game would have been a 2-3 yard loss. But the most instructive thing to me on that play, Kendricks was so fired up after making this hit. He looked like, I swear, like a rookie trying to make the team.
Right.
And that's what I like to see with those older guys. I really do. You know, do they still have that fire and passion to play, or are they picking up a paycheck? And that one play told me about all I needed to know.
All right, babe, we got you for a couple more minutes here. Let's go ahead and pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
This is the exclusive home of Dallas Cowboys football. KRLD-FM and HD1, Dallas, Fort Worth. Let's go, Cowboys.
An Odyssey station.
Hey, babe, sorry about that. Our time management skills are really poor. We've got to work on that in the preseason.
Preseason game.
Yeah,
First
preseason.
Game. Come on.
Here we go. But thanks for being with us, as always. Okay, wide receiver play. Babe, it seems like to me every time I watch practice, a different receiver makes a play. And I think this is going to help Trey Lance today, that he's going to be throwing to guys that are not only trying to be maybe the 6th or 7th guy, maybe the 5th, 6th, or 7th guy on this roster, but to me, I like these guys in the way they make plays. Are you seeing it the same way?
See, it's funny, seeing it the exact same way. And I think a big part of that is, once upon a time, I hate to take a stroll down memory lane, but when I played, you played 2 wide receivers. These guys are coming out in 3 and 4 wide receiver sets in college and in high school. So they've had all this time on task, right? Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. Before you had 2 guys coming out on the same team. Now you're playing 4 wides, and I just think that position has improved so much merely by the volume of receivers that now come into the league that may have caught, 100, 200, 300 balls in college. So these are some names that fans don't probably know, but they will. Ryan Flournoy.
Right.
He has looked impressive. You look up, he's a 6th-round pick. David Durden, who was here last year, I'm like, he's making plays. Tyron Billy Johnson, he's making plays. So to your point, Brian, I remember going in late in preseason games back in the day when they played the starters early, and you'd get on the field, and I'd look, and I'd say, well, I'm not throwing to him because he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. I'm not throwing to this guy because he can't catch. And you had maybe 2 guys who you felt comfortable throwing the football to at the end of games. And now, to your point, Brian, across the board, Cam Johnson, there's a name we left out.
There you go.
Free agent guy. And he can play. So, there's 6, 7, 8. And I always say that when that, let's say you get to that 5th or 6th receiver that you're keeping, depending on what it is, you can go 8. That number 6, there's not a lot of difference between number 6 and number 9, in my opinion, in today's NFL.
Babe, as it relates to the pass catchers, is there any point throughout this holdout that is there like a time frame to where you'd start to get a little bit concerned about CeeDee Lamb not being back with the team, or hey, as long as he's here for week 1, game 1, we're good here?
Yeah, a little bit to your second point, but I do say this, say, well, he doesn't need camp, he's a veteran. Then why do they have training camp? Right? Why do they even have camp?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, they have it because you need it and you get better. And hey, let's go. Zach Martin last year obviously held out, missed a couple of weeks. He said, I didn't feel right like in that early part of the season because he hadn't been through the training camp. So I think it's a little similar with CD. Is he going to be fine? Yes, but would you like to have him? Absolutely. And they do say, obviously, there's an opportunity presented for these younger receivers. They're getting more reps, and that's true. Mm-hmm. But you want to see CeeDee Lamb getting the reps. But in my mind, and I know nothing, no inside information, they're going to work it out.
Agreed. Definitely can't wait to get 88 back there and catching some passes from Dak Prescott. Now, before we let you out of here, babe, last year's rookie class, a little bit disappointing to this point. I mean, my goodness, Guyton, Nealon, Leofau, Beebe, Carson. I mean, these guys are showing out. Anybody jumping out to you there watching practice?
Probably the last guy you mentioned, Carson. I mean, your first rounder should jump out to you, right? But, hey, they picked up this corner in the 5th round, and to Brian's point, every time I look up, and just for the folks at home, you're out there watching practice, and everybody will ask me about how's this guy doing. I'm like, they're all over the field. You can't just focus in. If you told me, hey, I want you to watch Kalen Carson and nothing but him, I'd give you a good report after practice. But I'm watching everything. But every time I'm looking down here, watching this drill, watching this, every time I look up and somebody's making a play on the other field, I'm like, who is that? 41. And then you get to the next practice, it's 41. So those plays have been continuing. But to your point, too, here, I must say, Eric, last year we liked all the rookies early on. You said not a great draft class. People love Deuce Vaughn, right? He got to the season, he averaged 1.7 a carry. I mean, so you tend to like them early. So we got a little ways to go before we can say, hey, whoa, what a great draft class.
Very fair, very fair. Babe Laufenberg, ladies and gentlemen. Babe, thanks for the time as always. You're the best. Enjoy the game, and we'll do this again next week, baby.
Thank you. Looking forward to some football. I really am.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Same here. There he goes, Babe Laufenberg on the call as always with Brad Sham and Kristi Scales. Just under 90 minutes to kick. Let's get the scoop from the best in the business. Kristi joins us next right here on The Fan.
Dallas Cowboys fans know a thing or two about legacy, commitment, and loyalty. That's why Kohler is our proud...
Blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Hour and 20 minutes to kickoff. Welcome in to the official pregame show of America's team, the first football Sunday, the first Cowboys Sunday of the year. Oh, how sweet it is. Preseason game number 1 at SoFi Stadium versus the Rams. It's time to get the scoop from the best in the business. Kristi Scales joins us now on 105.3 The Fan. Kristi, happy game day to you in L.A. How crowded is it down there? I know with the roster sizes right now, it might be just nuts with how many players are actually there.
Yeah, just all these rookies crowded. We need to get rid of some of these rookies just so I can have some space to work. So if Tom Brady would just move away from the Cowboys sideline right now, he's with Kevin Burkhardt. And no, this game is not being broadcast on Fox, but Tom Brady is in his rookie year the broadcaster. He's going to be the analyst for Fox, and so they're actually doing a run-through of this game. So it's a preseason game for a 7-time Super Bowl winner. So preseason is a time for experimentation, not just for new broadcasters, but all sorts of things happen in the preseason. For example, the Microsoft Surface tablets that coaches and players use on the sideline, those always have been just still photography. But in the preseason, there are going to be 8 on the sideline and 2 up in the coach's booth that will have video access. So instead of just the pre-snap still photo, the photo at the snap and second access, they're experimenting and are going to be able to access video for each of these preseason games. So that's one reason, guys, why I enjoy preseason. It's not just seeing some of the young guys who were playing well in training camp. Can they take what they've done in training camp, manifest it on the field? But there's all sorts of experimentation that's going to happen over the next few weeks that's going to impact the league moving forward.
Yeah, Kristi, even that, with the stuff with the laser device that spots where the ball is and stuff like that. I'm hearing some whispers that maybe it needs to be a little bit quicker than what they've experienced here so far with the way they're getting the rulings down.
Yeah, talking about the Hawkeye system, which is going to be used for down and distance. It's used right now in terms of providing video from the different angles, but in terms of eventually replacing the chain gang, this is the same kind of technology that's used in tennis, has been used for many years to rule whether a ball is in or out on the tennis court. In soccer, including the FIFA World Cup, as to VAR, whether or not the ball is a goal or not. That technology has existed. They've used it in the XFL, back like several years ago. So it exists. I just asked the officiating crew, I asked the side judge, they're going to be using it here today. He said he was not aware that they would be using it, but it's possible that in the next couple of preseason games, they're doing random preseason games. Gotcha. So I don't know if it'll be available in Las Vegas when the Cowboys play at the Raiders next week, or if we're going to have it in the final preseason game. If we do, I'll let you guys know.
Kristi Scales with us here on The Fan, getting you set for kickoff. Cowboys and Rams preseason game number 1. What else do you have your eye on tonight? Any particular player or position group, Kristi, that you're interested in seeing how they do?
Sure, I'm with Babe on this. Let's see how Trey Lance does. Now, he's not going to get the start. It'll be Cooper Rush getting the start. And how many snaps series, how many series does Cooper Rush get? Depends on how they do. If the first series is a 3 and out, or the second one, then he might play further into the first quarter. But if they get a 7 or 10 play drive, don't be surprised if you see Trey Lance come into the game, maybe even the middle of the first quarter. But it just depends on how Rush and that offense is going before they put Lance in. And then I also agree, Tyler Guyton, it's a shame that he missed work this past week at training camp in Oxnard. He did get a little bit in the joint practice, but they're going to be counting on him. Of course, you have Edoga. Edoga's going to start, so expect Cooper Rush and Chuma Edoga at quarterback and left tackle to start, but Guyton and, of course, Trey Lance are going to get a ton of work today.
Yeah, Kristi, just kind of getting the lowdown, it sounds like that we're going to get Guyton in the second quarter and the third quarter. So maybe an opportunity. So that'll be good for him to get that opportunity. Yeah, maybe earlier if they get a couple of long drives, Cooper Rush and that who's going to be the first team line, Brock Hoffman, before you see more of
Cooper Beebe at center and Guyton at left tackle. So that's the thing. You want it to be efficient work, not just because, it bodes well in terms of applying alignment, assignment, execution, what they've been doing in the training camp practices, but you get those guys off the field and you get more work for the guys you really need to see, and that's the whole point of these preseason games.
No question about it. Kristi, you've been out there in Oxnard. Has your mind or perspective changed on anything in regards to this football team since getting out to camp and seeing firsthand what they're working with?
Still have questions about the run game, and yes, it is great to have the experience of Ezekiel Elliott back, but I was just having a conversation with Jeff Blasco, the position coach, because Mike McCarthy said something, I believe it was Wednesday, might have been Friday in a press conference. He was saying that the running game is further along than it was at this point last year. And that's because last year, remember, they were changing things coming off of Kellen Moore's offense and Mike McCarthy calling the plays, and it had to do with like recognition and protection and just changing some of the things with fits and things like that. So basically they're ahead just because it's not some of the new stuff, particularly in protection and recognizing things for the running back. So he thought that they were ahead in that regard. I think today is a very important day for a guy like Malik Davis, because with Royce Freeman not playing today because of injury and missing the last week of camp, Deuce Vaughn injured with a hamstring and missing a couple weeks of camp, that's more reps for a guy like Malik Davis, and he's fighting for his spot. You know that Rico Dowdle is going to be on the team unless there's some kind of major upset that happens in the next couple weeks, but it's an important game for guys like that.
Scoop, I hope I don't put you on the spot here, but we have some new defensive coaches. We have a new defensive coordinator. Have you got an idea of how booth assignments and field assignments might look here in the preseason?
Exactly. So Zimmer's going to be down on the field, the defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn, the previous Cowboy coordinator, would call from up in the coach's booth. But and then Jeff Scanina, who is the defensive line coach, he's going to be down here on the sideline. So some of the new guys. One thing that is a little different, and Bryan, I'm so glad you asked this question because I just asked it of Cannon Matthews about an hour ago on the sideline. He works with the safeties. Cannon, one of the guys up in the booth. It's going to be a little bit different this game because even though SoFi is new and beautiful and awesome, the coach's booth is pretty cramped. So there are going to be a couple more guys on the sideline this game than will be the case next week in Las Vegas or then when we get back to AT&T Stadium. But again, preseason is a time for the coaches to work on all of this too and see how they like it. So, but some of the newer faces, I imagine that Greg Ellis will be on the sideline as well. Some of our listeners may not know that the former Cowboy first-round pick from 1998, the former defensive end and linebacker, is now one of the assistant coaches. He assists Scanina with the defensive line, so it'll be fun. It's been fun at training camp. It'll be fun on the sideline to see how Ellis interacts with the players.
Absolutely, Greg Ellis, one of the best, man. Such a sweet man. Anytime we get a chance to catch up with him, so glad he is on this staff right now. Kristi, you're the best. We appreciate your time as always. Enjoy the game, and good luck navigating the traffic there. It seems like it's pretty nuts.
Hey, I'm with the team on the bus. We drove in at 8 o'clock and be back with a police escort, so we'll make it very early back to Oxnard.
Wonderful. Best in the business, Kristi Scales, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Kristi, and we'll catch up with Kristi coming up in the next hour as we get you set for the first kickoff of the preseason. This is a good time. What do you think about the Trey Lance thing here? He's not going to start, but presumably could play 3.5 quarters of this one, Broaddus.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they were working with the Cards on Friday, it was Cooper Rush that took the first reps. And so I had a feeling that maybe it was going to be maybe a quarter, but Kristi's talking about a couple of series, kind of getting an idea of how this thing might play out with when you start to talk about reps. Someone mentioned to me that Guyton was looking at that second and third quarter possibly for him. And so that would be, we'll see how many he gets. Rico Dowdle, they're talking between 12 and 15 snaps there. Overshown, looking at 12 to 15 as well for him. So those are just kind of when you start to talk about pitch counts, this is kind of what we're looking at. Maybe they go over 15 in some ways depending on how the series go, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Beautiful. All right, Broaddus live in Oxnard, and it's the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys, taking you up until kickoff, just over 60 minutes to kick, and we have an absolutely loaded final hour of the program, including Brad Sham's conversation with head coach Mike McCarthy, and we'll find out what we're going to get from Trey Lance tonight, and all the things you need to know to get set for kickoff is coming up next here on the official pregame show of America's team on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan.
Bell Nunley has been committed to serving their clients for over 4 decades. This Dallas-based full-service law firm offers an extensive array of legal services, including championship-level commercial litigation, mergers and acquisitions, real estate, intellectual property, and labor and employment practices. Whether it's the clients they serve, the cases they win, the people they hire, or the community they build, Bell Nunley is behind every great company. Go to bellnunley.com to learn more.
Fuel up for game day like a pro with the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Hi, I'm Shelby Volleman, and at Volleman's Family Farm, our family is dedicated to providing the highest quality glass-bottled milk, fresh from our farm in Central Texas. From vanilla to cappuccino milk and many more, we have fun flavors for everyone. Score a bottle of our milk by visiting our website, vollemansdairy.com, to find our products in a store near you. Win big by making the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys the official milk of your family table.
Life doesn't stop when the economy is uncertain. The market might not care you have a wedding to plan or a kid to put through school. And inflation doesn't know you've got a family to feed. But Bank of America does, and is here to help. With digital tools to help you save and local experts nearby, you can keep life moving forward the way you need it to. Bank of America. What would you like the power to do? Learn more at bankofamerica.com. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC, equal credit opportunity lender.
Miller Lite is brewed with great taste and only great taste.
The Miller Brewing Company would like to issue a correction. Miller Lite is brewed to be less filling. What are you doing here?
Miller Lite tastes great.
Look, I'm just reading the script. It says less filling.
That's not what my script says.
Well, mine said.
We'd like to apologize for the previous announcers. Miller Lite is in fact less filling and tastes great. Time to shine, legal guy.
Celebrate responsibly. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Beer, 96 calories and 3.2 grams carbs per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Huddle up, team. Here's the play. Small sticker flicker on 3. Jet sweep to number 99, who fakes right, cuts left, and pitches the ball to me. I juke a tackler, sprint straight to the sideline, and dive for my phone, where I visit shop.dallascowboys.com and order myself an official Dallas Cowboys toll tag to show off my team. Did I mention it saves me big money all over DFW? Then touchdown dance. Small sticker, big savings. Go Cowboys.
Get ready for some football. Embassy Suites by Hilton Dallas Frisco is only a mile from your team's headquarters. Book now to touch down in a 2-room suite. Kick off with free made-to-order breakfast and intercept complimentary drinks and snacks at evening receptions. From September the 7th through December 31st, receive a discounted rate if you mention our football rate. Book your stay at Embassy Suites by Hilton Dallas Frisco Convention Center and Spa by calling 972-712-7200.
A game day without Nature's Own looks like burgers without the buns, hot but no dogs, all butter, no rolls. It's foot, but no ball. All right, maybe not that far, but game days certainly aren't the same without Nature's Own. Make game day delicious with Nature's Own, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And be sure to enter for a chance to win season tickets to the Dallas Cowboys at nature'sownbread.com/tickets. Terms and conditions apply. See nature'sownbread.com/tickets for more details and official rules.
Spurs assistant coach Becky Hammond on inspiration.
I hope it's an inspiration to girls out there, being the first woman to coach an NBA team. But I've always been more inspired by the future, not by what I've done, but by what's coming next.
What do you want to do next? Whether it's buying
Bill Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Jack Link's, feed your wild side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Hello and welcome to the official pregame party of America's team, the first one of the 2024 season. Welcome into a football Sunday on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. What a great time it is. Football is back. A long off season now in the rear view, and it's the unofficial start to the season. And there's nothing else we'd rather be doing right now than talking football, talking Cowboys football with you. And the Cowboys are in Los Angeles right now. Sofi Stadium taking on the Rams. They had their joint practice with them earlier in the week, and our man Bryan Broaddus, boots on the ground in Oxnard, California right now, has been since the start of camp, and he'll be there until the Cowboys come back home to the Star. And Broaddus, there's lots to break down about this football team that you've seen over the course of the last couple of weeks at camp, and then looking ahead to tonight's matchup versus the Rams. Who's in, who's out, what are we expecting to see as we get into the preview here, brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Broaddus, welcome to another Dallas Cowboys season, and how fired up are you for tonight's action? You're wearing your Pearl Snap shirt. I see you. You dressed for the occasion. Welcome to football, baby.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it is exciting. It's exciting to be out here to watch practice every day and kind of get an idea of how these guys are working and then how it's going to translate to how they play in these games. And you'll see some of these players, some of these guys have had some really nice success in practice. We mentioned the wide receivers. We've mentioned the corners. Some of the offensive linemen have had some success. Now you'll get to play against an opponent. We saw them on Thursday. It gave us a little taste of that. But here we are. We're going to keep score. We're going to run a lot of plays. And what you don't need tonight from the offense is a bunch of 3-and-outs. You want to see them kind of have the ability to move the football, sustain some drives, don't wear your defense out. That's the one thing you always worry about in these preseason games, is if the offense starts to sputter and not have any kind of traction and doesn't have the ability to get points, and then you're just wearing guys down, and then by the end of the game, your defenders are just not what they need to be. And that's where I look at that with the way the Cowboys with their backups, they've got some capable backups. Some guys need to find ways to continue to make those plays, get off the field on defense. But when the offense has the opportunity, these receivers, these running backs, these tight ends, make some plays, keep some drives going, help your quarterback a little bit, finish some drives. You don't want to see a punt fest, where it's just constant, okay, the offense looks bad, and then the defense gets put in a terrible situation. So some really good balance tonight would be, or this afternoon would be, I think, the recipe for really getting a good evaluation of how this game can play out.
Well, Kristi Scales has informed us that Cooper Rush will be getting the start at quarterback for the Cowboys tonight, and it's kind of a play-it-by-ear situation with how much he's going to be out there. If they sustain a drive or two in the first quarter, that might be all you see. And then in comes Trey Lance, and that's the guy that is at the top of the list for Cowboys fans and wanting to see him. And is he a guy that has some promise at the quarterback position? Cowboys traded a 4th-round pick for him last year. We haven't seen much of him, but we should be seeing a bunch of him in this preseason, maybe as much as 3.5 quarters tonight, Broaddus. What have you seen from him in camp since you've been there, and what would you like to see from him tonight?
Yeah, I think with Trey, we've talked about the struggles that he had early in camp, and those struggles were, I think he lacked some confidence in throwing the football. I think he lacked some confidence of okay, do I take a shot here? Do I throw it here? It was a lot of check downs. It was very similar to if you remember what Cooper Rush, when he came into the league, it was a lot of check downs, a lot of underneath stuff. The ball wasn't going down the field. And now it was kind of funny. Cooper Rush was throwing the ball in a way like, I've got nothing to lose. I'm either going to be the second quarterback here or the third quarterback. So you saw the ball going down the field. You saw some deep shots, deep outs, comeback routes, vertical routes. All these things were with Cooper Rush. And we've whoa, okay, that's a little bit different. You wanted to see that from Trey Lance, and we've started to see that a little bit more with Trey. The accuracy has shown up. The placement, the ball placement, the touch. Those are things that I think that we were looking for from Trey. You know, there's times early in camp where the ball was sailing on him. He'd throw the ball outside the numbers, and the ball would be way too high, or, you know, it wouldn't be a catchable football. But he's kind of dialed things back. He looks like a more confident player. The one thing he can do is run. He is a very good athlete. You know, you don't want to see him running all over the place tonight, but if he has to run to get a first down to keep drives going, well, that'll be fine. But you want to see Trey Lance take advantage of a clean pocket if he gets it, and then make a good solid throw, which he is, say, the last 4 or 5 practices he's been really good at.
Well, that's encouraging. I imagine we'll see plenty of boots and waggles brought us tonight for Trey Lance. Make it a little easy on him.
It was funny you say that, because the Thursday practice against the Rams, it was even Dak Prescott. It was basic runs, but it was boots, waggles, all the thing where you move the pocket, get him going one way. That's why Cooks was successful. That was Ferguson was successful. You know, we'll see if they get him on the outside, throwing the ball to Schoonmaker, throwing the ball to Stevens. You know, maybe with that boot, maybe throwing the ball on the outside with Cropper. Those guys kind of playing a little bit underneath. But I have a feeling that Trey Lance might take some shots down the field to try and open some things up. Yeah.
Love it. And we'll have the rookie first-round pick out of Oklahoma, Tyler Guyton, on the left side there of the offensive line. It looks like he's going to give it a go. What's the plan for him tonight, Broaddus?
Yeah, early indication was that he might not play, and then I said, okay, let's figure this out. So I reached out to a couple different my sources with the team, and as we talked about in the crosstalk a little bit when we started our program, that we were hopeful that he was going to get into the game and then be on a pitch count. Got that confirmed. Confirmed that he was going to dress. You're probably going to still see him on the pitch count. We mentioned about Overshone, 12 to 15, Rico Dowdle, 12 to 15, and it looked like to me that Guyton was going to play second quarter and third quarter, was where they were at with that. So maybe he'll get a little more, maybe he'll get a little less, depending on how the game progresses. But it'll be nice to see him out there working, because he's missed a lot of days out here where he had a really good blue-white scrimmage and some practices before that where he was really good, and then he got sick.
Yes, well, I'm glad he's going to be out there tonight. Looking forward to seeing him. Very impressive in the days that we got to be out there at camp and watch the rookie first-round left tackle Tyler Guyton going toe-to-toe with Micah Parsons at times. Very, very impressive. So glad he'll be out there tonight. Plenty more questions to be answered coming up here on your official pregame show of America's team. Just under 60 minutes to kick off. Let's go live to SoFi Stadium. Voice of the Cowboys, Brad Champ, standing by with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy for today's Coach's Corner. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey, Dallas Cowboys fans. Hope y'all are ready for game day.
energy provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Reliant, PUCT number 10007.
Under 60 minutes to kickoff. Welcome into a Cowboy game day. Great to have you in the first football Sunday of the year. Cowboys in Los Angeles. And standing by is voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, with head coach Mike McCarthy for today's Coach's Corner. Brad, take it away.
Guys, thanks very much. We've reached that stage of training camp that disguises itself as a competitive game. It's the preseason opener. And, Mike, I always say these things don't count, but they matter. And they certainly matter to the players. They matter to the coaches. We'll get into that in a minute. How do you think training camp has gone so far?
Well, I think we've had a really good training camp. I think just like anything, when you're able to come to the same place, which we're so fortunate to come out here to Oxnard in this training environment that we have, and now being on a very similar schedule the last couple of years, you have comparables that are evident, and this is just by the numbers is an excellent camp. I mean, there's definitely some things we've done better this year than the last 2 years, and that's encouraging because we have come out of camp in a pretty good spot as a football team the last couple of years. So I feel really good about the workload capacity, the competition. The new scheme on defense has been good. It's definitely, I think, going to help our defense because it's different that our opponents now have to prepare for. It's been really different for us offensively. It's given us a different level of training in certain areas. So I mean, there's so many positives that go with coming here to training camp, and it's all part of shaping your team. But going to the beginning part of your question is. Now it matters. These games are so important for young players, and just the meetings this morning. Everybody. I mean, it's just a whole different sense of energy, urgency. And now it's time to play games, and so excited for our guys that will play a lot. And it's important for everybody that dresses plays in the game. That's just a philosophical belief of mine. Just because these players have given so much to us through the off-season program, through training camp, and I'm excited to see them line up and play Sunday against the Rams.
You said something on Friday that struck me because I say it all the time. I so agree with it, and that is that in this game, somebody that no one's been talking about out loud for the last 2 weeks is going to do something impactful. And the parentheses is it might change that person's life, the course of their career. What's your experience with that kind of thing? How do you look out for that?
Happens every year, and I think just the reality of the way this business of football works is not only are they playing for the opportunity to be part of our football team this year, but they're also playing to be on video for the other 31 teams. And at the end of the day, we're all competing in a game that we love. With the opportunity to support our family. So just the fact that, every guy has done the work, this is a great opportunity for him to make an impact on his value to play in the National Football League. And that's just the big picture reality of it. But, the thing I'm excited about is who's going to be that guy, which you already asked. And we were just talking about this in a quarterback meeting about a half an hour ago, where the fact is, when you step in the huddle for that first preseason game, some guys' eyes are going to be different. Some guys are going to they're going to grab the bit and go for it, and you're going to see a difference in each and every guy, and that's such an important step to take as an offense or as a defense, and that's why you play these games. So no, I agree with you. I can't wait to watch the tape Sunday night, or Monday morning, and just to see how everybody plays.
The people that we're talking about who are going to be in the huddle, both sides of the ball. Some of them are rookies, think they know what they're getting into, and they really don't. Some of them are young guys who have been in camps. You've got a couple guys who've been in multiple camps, but they've, for whatever reason, never stuck. They're kind of showing up here a little bit. Which of those groups interest you more?
I think you can go all the way through it. I mean, the only group I'm a little concerned about is our defensive back numbers, because we just don't have great numbers for the game. But I'm excited to see them all play because, I mean, we got healthy numbers. The tight end group is going to be a good group, the young offensive linemen. But, yeah, there's not really anybody that just jumps out because, like you said, everybody's path's different. Some are similar, but they are different. And, what they've attained since they've been here and how can they apply it to the real competition on Sunday.
Do you have a guy or two or three who, as you've looked at the tape and gotten ready for this game today, thought about, okay, I haven't talked about him, nobody's talked about him out loud, that guy might do something? Are there a couple of those?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I feel like I feel like I'm part of a fantasy football conversation here. I feel like I'm being pumped for some information.
Well, you are.
No, absolutely. No, because our offensive coaches were just talking on us, and I was teasing them that fantasy football is a form of betting, so obviously we're not allowed to do that. But we were just talking out loud about who do you think is going to really step up, and I think just the one guy that everybody touched on offensively, just because you could see it last year, and he's really had a really good off-season program, and then he's picked it up right where he left off in training camp, Malik Davis. So he would be my number one choice on offense. I think he's a guy that's going to really step up.
An important position because you don't have a returning guy, although Ezekiel Elliott is back. We're not going to see him today. What is it about Malik? What's he done differently than he's done for you the last couple of years?
I think he's really improved every part of his game. I just think like anything, when you're a young running back, it's fairly normal to come into the league, and pass protection is the area where you need to most improve, and it's no different for him. He's a natural runner. I love his run style. Hell, he showed that 2 years ago. When he had a chance to play up there in Green Bay, I thought he did an excellent job in that game. So, but he's really improved his pass pro, and he's done a great job last year and obviously leading up to this point in the special teams. I mean, he's really well thought of on our special teams units.
Last thing, do you have a point in time, maybe when you bring them together for OTAs after the draft, after signing free agents, that you look at your roster and say to yourself, this is what I think we're capable of? Or do you try to make a blank slate and let them show you?
No, my approach has always been, the goal's always been the same. Training camp really tells you where you need to work, where you need to put more work to, more energy to get to New Orleans and win the championship. So, yeah, my outlook is always the same, because I do believe there's a path for us to get to the Super Bowl and win. But we just got to stay true to our process. I love our guys. I love our locker room. We're really young in spots. So these two preseason games will tell you a lot about how we're going to look when we line up in Cleveland.
Appreciate the time. Enjoy the day, and then enjoy watching the tape.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
There's Mike McCarthy, fellas. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Brad Sham, voice of the Cowboys, hanging out with head coach Mike McCarthy for today's Coach's Corner. It's the official pregame show of America's team. We get you set for kickoff. We continue to do so. We'll get to know the enemy, and we'll go into the owner's box with Stephen Jones. Coming up next, Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Whataburger's Buffalo Ranch Chicken Strip Sandwich is back.
Chicken strip.
Chicken strip.
His work ethic, everything's there for him to really take the next steps. But the bigger thing for him today is just get in there, get comfortable, and be consistent with the little things.
And one thing with Trey Lance working in practice last year and even running scout team, even though he wasn't running Cowboys plays, he was throwing to young receivers who are making strides and going to get work today. And I'm talking about the Jalen Crawfors of the world and the Tyron Billy Johnson. And so who are some of these young guys, those two or maybe even more, that you're excited to see?
Well, I think you add Jalen Brooks to that group. Obviously, Cropper has done a good job. Flournoy, who missed the first week of camp, 9 days of camp, has really come on the last couple of days. I thought he had a great scrimmage against the Rams. I'm really looking forward to him. He's got the body type. He's got the intangibles we're looking for, so it'll be great to see him as well. And then, of course, you mentioned the guys like Cropper and T-Billy and some of that crew. So it's a good group. Another one who's kind of starting to step up is Durden, who's coming off an ACL from last year, a guy we really liked at the beginning of camp before he got hurt. So he'll be in that mix too. Obviously, we'll limit those guys coming off ACLs to probably, 15, 20 plays. But it'll be great to see a guy like Durden and John Stevens, a young tight end who we thought a lot of this time last year. Both those guys coming off their ACLs.
Will Tyler Guyton, your rookie first-round pick, the left tackle, we know he's not going to start, probably, or Chuma Edoga maybe get the start, but Tyler missed some time during the week due to illness. Is that going to limit him today, or is he going to get the compliment allotted to him?
We'll limit him somewhat, but he'll get the same thing as the ACL guys. He is coming off that virus, but I see him getting, that same number of plays, 15 to 20 type plays. It'll be great to see him in there with BB and see the kind of work they can do. We're really excited about those young guys.
We've got Stephen Jones here in the owner's box, and you mentioned the ACL guys, so Durden, John Stevens, and of course part of that rehab group was DeMarvion Overshone, who suffered the season-ending knee injury last preseason. Stephen, Demo has been all over the field in camp.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mike Zimmer and our Paul and our group of defensive coaches have really been impressed with the work that he's doing. He's figuring in our plans in a big way. We will limit him as well, to that 15 or 20 plays coming off that ACL. But as you said, he's been one of the, shining stars in our camp so far, and certainly a guy that Zim's, figuring on playing a big role in his defensive unit.
You made a trade at the end of the week, sending cornerback Nashawn Wright to Minnesota for Andrew Booth, and I know he doesn't know the system yet, maybe get a couple of special team snaps today. But at cornerback, this Kalen Carson, man, he's got the media and fans buzzing. What's being said in the personnel meetings about him?
Same type of situation. These rookies in general. I throw Marist in that same group, Lou Fowl, I say, throw Nealon in the same deal with Carson. Those guys have really stepped up and really impressed this new defensive staff in terms of where they can fit. It certainly made us comfortable making a trade, certainly with Nashawn Wright, who did a lot of good things for us here, but it allowed us to maybe go for a guy with a little more upside in Booth, and knowing we got Carson there to go along with our first three, it's a good group of corners.
What you talk about the defensive staff, I can't wait to see Zimmer on the sideline, and then the new defensive line coach, Jeff Scanina. Man, let's just say it's going to be quite an
intensity between those two, and it's a different type. I mean, they rule with an iron fist, and it's tough love a lot of times with those guys. But it is great to see them. I'm sure, though, we'll see a lot of basic things today. I know they're not wanting to play their hand before the season starts, but be great to see a lot of these young guys get in there and go to work.
I'll make sure that my microphone is off on the sideline if I'm on the defensive side of the ball in case any words that shouldn't make it on the radio.
That's probably wise, because I've heard a few of those words lately. So
we appreciate it. Thanks, Stephen. That's the view from the owner's box at SoFi Stadium. As we continue counting down to Cowboys at the Rams, let's rejoin Eric and Bryan.
Thank you so much, Kristi. Now, Broaddus, it's time to get to know the enemy, brought to you by Aero Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. You've seen this Rams team now in the joint practice, and obviously we won't be seeing all their big-name starters tonight, but any takeaways there, one practice with the Rams, and how good you think they might be?
Yeah, it was a pretty good matchup for them the other day with the Cowboys. The defensive line, like I mentioned, I was down with the one-on-one group, just kind of watching them work against the Cowboys, some of the backups and stuff like that. Kobe Turner, a nose tackle. I kind of was impressed with. Here the Cowboys are trying to kind of figure out their defensive tackle group. When you look at Turner, I mean, he is a guy he's got size to him. He's active. He will be a good matchup when we get into the actual game today of number 91 and those guys having to block him. Their secondary, they've got some guys that can absolutely can cover. How well. The Cowboys as well have done a great job. Their receivers, young receivers, are working against really good corners, out here on defense. But the Rams have got some young guys as well that can kind of can cover you up. So it's going to be about protection, and with the backups, it's going to be about protections, route running, and then can Trey Lance locate? Now, if he can, both teams will probably play pretty basic or pretty vanilla. You might see a blitz or two here or there, but maybe not as much as you would for sure as a regular season game. But I just kind of feel like defensively the Rams will just kind of they'll play what they're going to play. The Cowboys have got to find a way to make plays. I mentioned it earlier. 3-and-outs are a bad thing in a preseason game. It just, you cannot. You need that quarterback to play with some consistency. That's what Stephen Jones was talking about, and that's, the Rams will probably allow that today with some of their looks. So hopefully Trey Lance, these receivers, they can maybe get the running game going a little bit where they're staying ahead of the chains, and then Mike McCarthy is comfortable calling the plays the way he needs to call them.
Beautiful. All right, we're 30 minutes to kick off here on the Cowboys pregame show. We'll get you to SoFi as quickly as possible. We'll go inside the booth with the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, and we'll get Kristi Scales' keys to the game, all coming up next. Getting you set for kickoff, you're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
At Academy Sports and Outdoors, we've spent 80-plus years in the business of fun. Expert fishing fun. Early morning hunting fun. Late night, need new cleats before tomorrow morning's game. Fun. Relaxing fun. Mouth-watering fun. So whatever fun adventure you're gearing up for, you'll find it for less at Academy Sports and Outdoors and at academy.com.
Cowboys Nation is big because everything's bigger in Texas. And Reliant has the energy to power it all. From home field advantage to home sweet home, Reliant has Dallas Cowboys fans all across the Lone Star State covered for every electric moment this season and beyond. Reliant, proud to be the official energy provider of your Dallas Cowboys.
Reliant, PUCT number 10007.
Miller Lite is brewed with great taste and only great taste.
The Miller Brewing Company would like to issue a correction. Miller Lite is brewed to be less filling.
For free today at AA.com. American Airlines, you are why we fly. Terms and conditions apply.
It's Cowboy Game Day here on the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Just over 20 minutes to kick. Cowboys in Los Angeles taking on the Rams, and it's time to go inside the booth of SoFi Stadium, brought to you by WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. And please game responsibly. Brad Sham, welcome to another Cowboy football season, man. What number is this for you, Brad? Where are we at here?
Thanks for keeping track. It's 46.
46.
Yep.
The big 46. How we feeling? Has this camp been any different for you than the previous 45?
Not really very much. I'm just focused on the weather, which is the best Oxnard weather we've had in a very long time. Yep. I mean, it's obviously a little weird with the two contract situations that are sitting there, but I mean, I think Lamb's going to be taken care of before the Cleveland game, and I don't know what will happen with Dak, but I do know from talking to him that is not interfering. Dak Prescott may be having the best camp he's ever had. So other than that, I think the thing for me, Eric, is that the fandom is more angry than I remember them being in a very long time.
Yes, sir.
And that's just going to be either addressed or not by how they play.
Brad, you mentioned Dak Prescott, and I totally agree with you. I think there's been some days where Mike Zimmer has thrown his best at him in some ways, and Dak has kind of found a way to navigate that. And the receivers, I think, are doing a pretty darn good job for him, but Dak just looks really comfortable with kind of everything swirling about him right now.
Very sharp, very accurate. I don't think he's thrown an interception in camp.
He got the one that Lewis got him in the corner of the end zone.
Oh, that's right. But by the way, Jordan Lewis is having a hell of a camp.
There you go.
Hell of a camp.
Yeah.
So I think, I talked to some guys, Bryan, in another city the other day. I think they're on our network, so I won't call their names, but they were bemoaning the absence of people to talk to. There's just nothing excited them.
Huh.
And I said, there's a lot of great stories in this camp. There are some veterans having fantastic training camps. You're not going to talk to Prescott and Parsons every day.
No.
But there's some guys having great training camps, and Jordan Lewis is one of them.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis, I think Tyler Smith. I mean, it's not much calling the roll when DallasCowboys.com runs their top 10, I guarantee you the guys that you just mentioned are going to be in that list.
Yeah, Smith looks like the All-Pro. When you talk to him, he's so confident.
Yes.
Now, it's just amazing how he came from, it's only year 3. 2 years ago.
Right.
People still, that same fan base that's so angry right now, they were heavily angry about Tyler Smith from Tulsa, who had a lot of college penalties, being drafted in the first round. Now he's a Pro Bowler.
Brad, any of the youngsters, any of the rookies standing out to you?
Oh, yeah. Steven mentioned Kalen Carson. He completely jumps off the tape at you. I think that their top 4 picks are guys who can contribute right away. They need Guyton to be really solid right away. But most fans don't really even talk about or know about Nealand and Leofau.
Yes.
But I think those 2 guys are going to make a substantial positive impact.
Yeah, right. Brad, we've kind of looked at, a lot has been asked about the Trey Lance stuff, and I think there was some struggles early in camp. He looks more comfortable dealing with, I'm kind of like, if he's driving the football, I'm interested to see how things go tight red zone with him, because that's where a little bit of his struggles have been. Hopefully he can kind of put those behind him.
What's it been, 2 years since he played any meaningful football?
Yeah.
And he only played 13 or 14 games in college.
Yep.
So I think these are 3 very big games for him regarding his future and what the team thinks of him. And nobody's going to scheme in preseason. So you just go play. And the one thing about a quarterback, Jimmy Johnson said this many years ago, and it really applied to Jason Garrett when he played. And that is that one thing you want to see from a quarterback in preseason is, will he move the team? And that's the thing we're going to find out about Trey Lance.
Well, Brad, we appreciate the time as always, man. Thanks so much. Enjoy the game, and cheers to 46. We'll be listening.
Thank you, fellas.
Yes, sir. There he goes, voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham. And now we go down to the turf of SoFi Stadium, and we get Kristi Scales, Keys to the Game, brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Kristi, great conversation in the owner's box with Stephen Jones. What's at the forefront of your mind right now as we get set for kickoff?
Yeah, is Trey Lance in terms of, I'll tell you what I don't want to see from Trey Lance that we saw the first week and a half of practice, and that's pulling the ball down and running with it when the play starts to break down. When you've heard Steven talk about it, when you've heard Mike McCarthy in the press conferences, and Scott Tolzien, who's the quarterback's coach, Stephen Jones say they want to see him in the pocket, make the reads, and make the throws. So what I don't want in preseason is to have my backup quarterback as the leading rusher, not only for the Cowboys, but for the NFL. Now, we'll say, and Bryan may agree with me on this, so Bryan, jump in here and tell me if I'm wrong, but the last week of practice, it's been a lot better. He's been making throws. We haven't seen him run when things break down. Am I right about that?
You're absolutely right about that, Kristi. He has done a much better job of, with his touch passes going down the field, but manipulating the pocket when he has to move. He's been able to make some throws, but sitting in that pocket's where he needs to get a little bit better at.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you hear Mike McCarthy talk about the footwork grid, and that things changed footwork-wise for Trey Lance from what he did previously. And so when I talked to Trey about it, and then also with Scott Tolzien, the quarterback's coach, when they're talking about footwork, they're also talking about it not just a 3-step or 5 steps, but off of that, right? When you're extending a play, or maybe it's a double move for a wide receiver, and so it's just something that you can see it, you can talk about it in meetings, but it's when things happen like that off of that initial drop back where you have certain progressions, certain things you need to do with your footwork, and having that be automatic where he's not thinking about it. Not quite to that point yet, but they see flashes of it. And those are the things that they want to see here in preseason. It's all about not just Trey Lance, but these young guys taking what they've learned in training camp, applying it, having it manifest itself on the field in real-life game conditions against an opponent that they haven't practiced against every day for the past 2.5 weeks.
Awesome stuff as always, Kristi. We appreciate the time, enjoy the game, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bryan.
There he goes, best in the business. There she goes. Scoop. Kristi Scales always bringing it with the pregame nuggets there. Now, Broaddus, you're live in Oxnard, getting set to watch this game. I know you're fired up. Appreciate you for rocking with us here on the pregame show. Broaddus, you will be hanging out in Oxnard for the postgame show and the halftime show with Zach Wolchuk. We will be listening, sir. Thanks for everything. You're the man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate everybody back at home.
All right, that'll do it for the pregame show. Brad, Babe, and Kristi will have you the rest of the way. Kickoff is around the corner. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Tom Thumb's new Drive Up and Go service makes grocery shopping easy and convenient for anyone.
25 pounds of ground chuck, 15 bags of hamburger buns, 28 bags of Tostitos, 10 packs of Pepsi, and some barbecue tongs.
You pick the time, you drive up, and go.
With Tom Thumb's Drive Up and Go, anyone has time in their schedule to go grocery shopping. Just a few clicks away, and you can feed your team.
Everyone can be a grocery pro bowler with Tom Thumb's Drive Up and Go. Download the app or try an online order to get started today.
Spurs assistant coach Becky Hammond on inspiration.
I hope it's an inspiration to girls out there, being the first woman to coach an NBA team. But I've always been more inspired by the future,